So this Ripmo can be converted to a short travel Ripley by changing just a few parts around, and I'm really curious how those Ripleys ride. It's been a few years since I had a short travel trail bike, and that's all I used to ride for a while. Bikes with 150, 160 millimeters travel, they're versatile, they pedal well, and if you're riding along single track and you see a big jump or a big drop, well, you can get a little wild. I was also using a bike like this because there was some stuff that I hadn't done here in Bentonville, and now that I've conquered that, I've leveled up my skills, I'm honestly a little bit bored of the local trails here, so I'm hoping with a short travel bike that'll spice things up a little bit and inject some fun back into the trails. Since I'm going down in travel, I'm opting to use a different fork. I may be able to reduce the travel on the Bomber Z1, but air springs are expensive and this is just an experiment. The interesting thing about this Ibis Ripmo and the Ripley is that they are the same frame, but they use a different rear shock size and a different clevis to change the geometry and travel. That was one of the main reasons I wanted this bike. It's basically two bikes in one if you have the right stuff for it. It's pretty funny. I took this bike to a bike park and I got all tuned up, but there was times where it would get super overwhelmed and I'm like, what's with this bike, man? But then I rode it here in Bentonville and it was working great. And then I realized maybe I was just asking too much out of this Ripmo at the bike park, hitting 50-foot jumps and feeling some serious G-forces. But let me show you how to convert this frame travel down to 130 millimeters. We will need a different shock. I got a Fox Float 210 by 52.5. Then we'll use this clevis. These go for $45. You insert it in there, torque it down, and we now have a Ripley. I'm trying to torque this thing down to 20 Newton meters, but my wrench is not clicking, and I just feel like the bolt's about to snap. This is a tie bolt, and I don't want to risk it anymore. That's tight enough. For some reason, there's no how-to video on this Ripley conversion, so I'm not real sure on the order to install these bolts. And I couldn't find any videos of anyone doing this before, so I'm in uncharted waters here. Everything was going smooth until I decided to try to torque that eyelet bolt one last time. Well, I am back from paternity leave. We had the baby Connor's here. Everything went super smooth, so thank you to everyone who sent messages about that. But while I was away, I had some interesting developments about this build. First, I got a new fork, the Manitou Mezzer Pro, and this can be adjusted from 180 millimeters down to 140 millimeters by using spacers on the air spring. But my cassette tool is not quite long enough to finish the job, so I have a special tool on order, and that means I can't use this fork in this video, and I'll just have to use the Pike Ultimate while I test out the short travel conversion. But let me know if you have any experience with this Mezzer Pro. I've heard some pretty good things about it, and I haven't used a Manitou fork since I had the Schwinn Axum. Second, I've acquired a whole bunch of parts that will be perfect on this bike. The Bentonville Bike Fest happened like 2 weeks ago, and I worked on a guy's bike that you might have heard of before, Calirado Kid. I installed some new parts for his Calirado exclusive build, and the deal was I got to keep whatever parts came off, and I got some pretty sick upgrades I'm gonna be installing on this bike. And last, I got the replacement clevis right here, so hopefully I don't strip this out again. Torquing this makes me nervous now. Okay. now the moment of truth. Let's see how this goes. Come on. Come on. Oh, yes, it worked. Let's go. With the rear shock finally installed, we can move on to the fork. This Pike Ultimate is from 2021 or 22, and it's a great fork, but I haven't serviced it in like 2 years, so I should probably change out the lower oil. A couple years ago, I installed some aftermarket fork seals, and they look brand new still. A simple fork lower service is one of the easiest bike maintenance things you can do. It takes just a few minutes with hardly any tools needed. This bar and stem is the start of the upgrades that came off Joe's bike. I love this bronze spank stem, but it's 31.8, so I'm going to use the bars too. Ibis has these bar ends that you can mess with the bar width without cutting the carbon, and I'm going with 760 wide because that's the best. All right, this bike is now an official Ibis Ripley with 140 millimeters front travel and 125 rear. And that was a lot of head scratching to get to this point, but now it's time for the fun part, the upgrades. First up are the wheels, and I've had these Crank Brothers Synthesis Enduro carbon wheels sitting around collecting dust. I didn't really know what to do with them, but I thought it was gonna be perfect to fit on this bike. But with the Manitou fork, I wasn't gonna be able to use them because the front axle has the RockShox torque caps, and it doesn't fit on the Manitou. But now that we're using the Pike Ultimate fork, I can use these again. But man, compatibility issues are just the worst. When I built up the Ripmo, I used Schwalbe radial trail tires, but I'm gonna leave them off on this Ripley conversion. The radial tires weigh 1,200 grams a piece, and that's a little bit too heavy for a short travel bike. And then when I built up this bike, I got a ton of recommendations on how to tweak the drivetrain for maximum performance. So we'll get into that in a minute. All right, let's get started. I'm reluctantly installing these Specialized tires, eliminator in the front, ground control in the rear. I like the ground control, they're fast rolling tires, but I punctured a ton of these Specialized tires and I really don't have much confidence in them. But I'll run these until I can't anymore. All right, here comes the best part. I got some new cranks off Colorado Kid's bike. Check these out. This is the start of another hodgepodge of compatibility, starting with changing out the driver body to microspline. It's crazy how much some brands charge for these free hubs, $230 for this one. That's why I've been using only one drivetrain brand, so I'm only using one standard. But nowadays, I'm starting to use Shimano again. Maybe I'll even try that new XTR wireless that was just released. I also had some times where the chain skipped on the cassette, and it was kind of scary if you're cranking hard for a jump, and I got a lot of comments to change out the gold KMC chain for a Shimano XTR chain. But I was also told that this XTR chain won't work with those 5-dev cranks and the chainring, so we'll see. Nowadays, I'm finding out that bike companies are switching to a 55mm chain line and using a much wider crank spindle. It's a little frustrating because that means all my cranks that I have are too narrow, including these green 5-dev cranks. Crank spacers are super annoying to deal with. It's just a trial and error trying different spacers until it fits, it spins, and the chainring and cranks don't touch the frame. I'd call that good enough. The thing that worried me the most here is the chainring is a SRAM T-type, but I was real happy to see that this chain worked just fine. This bike has an SLX drivetrain, and I got so many comments saying to get a Shimano XT shifter for more performance. And I gotta say that was a pretty cheap little upgrade, so I'm hoping that increases the performance. But man, all this messing around with the drivetrain just felt like I was hacking it all up, so we'll see if it's a hit or miss. Man, this XT shifter is like really stiff feeling. It's like a hard spring inside there or something. I don't know if I like it. But last up, I'm gonna try a new pedal. After years of trying, I finally linked up with Crank Brothers. I've been using their shoes and wheels for a while now, and Crank Brothers sent me these Mallet E clip pedals, and it seems like everyone using clips uses these days, so I'm super excited to check these out. And they sent me some new Mallet trail shoes to match. I guess the white ones that I've been using are more downhill enduro oriented, and these are more for trail and enduro. So let's get this installed and wrap up this build. Well, it is good to be back out here. I haven't been out to slaughter pen in quite some time, and now all the leaves and the foliage are just super overgrown, and this is awesome, man. It's good to be back out. And I was checking over the bike last night, and I noticed that there's a hole in the front tire, and man, these Specialized Eliminator tires are just so easy to puncture. So I went ahead and put a plug in there, so I hope it holds up. But I got that new Crank Brothers twin tube storage thing there, and it holds bacon strips and a multi-tool. That thing's super cool, so I'm prepared if it blows up, but I'm still looking for that perfect tire. I'm looking for a tire that's like 1,000 grams. So if you have any tire recommendations, let me know in the comments. Maybe I just might get them. So I'll be honest, I've been riding e-bikes too much. It's not for the reason that you would think. It's not because I'm like lazy or whatever. I mean, I'll be honest, they are pretty addicting, but Bentonville is a weird place. So the downhills are so short here. They're like, 30 seconds to a minute long, and then you got a 5-6 minute climb to the next one. And I've been around here so much that the downhill trails don't really give me that thrill anymore. So I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing where the downhill trails aren't super fun. I feel like I'm just climbing all the time here. I feel like it's uphill both ways. I'm just climbing nonstop. And then when you're on a long travel trail bike that's 35, 36 pounds, those aren't that fun to climb. So it's like, I don't know, that's where this Ripmo comes in. And it's weird, man. This Ripmo, I changed everything. Everything's different, and the geometry is way different too. And now the reach is 483, I think. But it does not feel like that. And so far, just a little bit of riding I've been doing right now, I feel like the climbing is a lot more fun, and that's what I'm after right now. But I'm not riding the e-bike because I'm out of shape. I mean, I'm in pretty good shape right now. Since my paternity leave, I got a Zwift indoor bike. I mean, I've been doing a ton of Zwift racing, virtual road bike racing. And if you want to follow me on Zwift, search Evans MTB Saga. Or if you want to follow me on Strava, follow me there too. But man, this bike is zooming uphill. It's awesome. Little wall ride here. Oh, it's wet. All right, let's hit a little flow trail before the chunk. And I will say this XT shifter is way better on the trail compared to the bike stand. Whoa, light. Nice. Oh yeah. Yeah, this bike is real peppy now. Whoa. Hear that sound? That was like almost the sound of carbon snapping. And I just went over the bike just now just to see if there's anything wrong with it, and I don't see any cracked carbon. I don't see anything wrong with it at all. Maybe it was the derailleur flopping around. I'm not a super big fan of this SLX derailleur. It's kind of floppy. I don't know. But I guess the problem will present itself if there is one down the line, because next up I want to test some chunk. And I want to see if this bike can feel overwhelmed and kind of find its limits. And I think I know of a perfect trail down the road. Let's go hit it. This is the e-bike line right here. Man, it is a night and day difference climbing this bike. And even pedaling it on flat ground, it just pedals so much better. And it's actually like enjoyable. And I don't think that's the short travel conversion. It's
probably just swapping out the tires. But with a short travel thing, I do feel like the suspension isn't bottomless. It feels more progressive. Like the deeper I go into the travel, it gets firm sooner. And I don't know, it's kind of a vibe, you know? So next up, let's try this trail called Rim Trail. But I want to see if these tires with that plug will explode or something, and really see if I can kind of feel the limits of this bike, because it's all positive so far, I'll tell you that. Let's hit it. I really like these pedals though. They're pretty like comfy. Nice solid platform. Oh yeah. All right, here goes the rock garden. That did not get overwhelmed at all. Oh, mud. Oh yeah. Man, this bike does really well. Kind of just eats it up. I did not get overwhelmed there at all. This is awesome, man. So I'm sitting here reviewing the footage and I'm like, man, I look like I'm going so slow, but when I'm on the bike, I feel like I'm going fast. And that's the perks of a short travel bike. So I think this Ripmo to Ripley conversion is super fun, man. I'm pumped on this. And I'm hoping that it kind of restores my motivation and excitement for the trails out here, because as it stands right now, I'm having more fun on Zwift racing other people, and that's just super convenient. It only takes an hour. It's safe. You're not, driving anywhere. You're not jumping your bike in the woods. So I don't know. I'm hoping that this kind of helps with that, get me out on the trail and not ride the e-bike so much. And that's one thing about the e-bike is you do more of the downhill trails, and it really just takes the fun out of the downhill because you just get exposed to it so much. And some people say like, oh, you got to earn your downhills, right, on the regular bike. But what if the downhills aren't fun? Why would I even climb to the top in the first place? I'm hoping that this short travel bike kind of injects some fun back into these trails and gets me off the e-bike, gets me out here again. But I think this Ripmo to Ripley conversion is the start of something good. This bike, all the changes that we made are just overall positive, and I'm open to some recommendations on some other short travel trail bikes that you guys have tried. And also let me know what kind of tires I should try on this bike, because I'm not really a fan of these specialized tires. But I'm also considering riding an XC full suspension, so let me know if you want to see one of those on my channel. And I guess that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.